Welcome to this impromptu Tremulus game using the Powered by the Apocalypse system to run a Cthulhu-esque game. We find our four intrepid and plucky heroes entering the boundaries of Kentucky in the deepest depths of winter. The ground is covered in thick snow as their plane makes its way through the storm towards Bowling Green, an area that's better known for its bourbon than its expansive cave network. They're travelling there to meet up with an excited James Dowling, an amateur archaeologist who has sent them an excited letter, which is what's caused them to fly over here, the plane being piloted by their able pilot Marilyn Shaw. The note still clutched in one of their hands, I'll leave it up to you to decide who has the note, reads in an excited scrawl: "No one else believes me. I was told you could help me. A living city beneath our own, and I'm afraid they know we're here now, and I don't think they like us very much." And then the end of it sort of tapers off into a smear of ink. Those of you who are a little bit more learned will be aware that this area, as well as its bourbon and the fierce weather it gets at this time of year, was known before the city was here. Missionaries once travelled, enlightened those they met with the word of God. However, the storms, the fierce storms that sweep down from the north, swallowed them whole. Some people whisper in local legends that it was snow spirits, or perhaps God himself didn't want those wicked men spreading his word, or perhaps they were struck down for their hubris. No one knows. Most people who know a little bit about it locally tend to keep their noses clean and their mouths shut, which probably the wisest thing to do if gods are involved. It is rumoured that amongst the possession of these missionaries was a crate of Bibles allegedly containing gold coins. Although no one has ever discovered this crate, despite the attempts of many treasure hunters over the years, some old Roman coins are found in the snow every once in a while. So that's the setup for our game this evening. I'm going to ask each of the players to introduce their character and just give a brief description of them. So we'll go first of all with Dave.
Hello, I am playing Griff Stone. He is the guide of the group. He's a wilderness type person. He looks like me in the hairiness of him, but harder and more chiselled. And he's here to help these guys.
Okay, splendid. And next we'll go on to Hannah.
I'm Marilyn Shaw. I'm a pilot, a wrinkled rustic pilot with a tanned face and bright eyes, stocky built. I've worked previously with both Griff Stone, Dave's guide, and Freddy Porter, the mechanic who keeps an eye on my plane for me.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
And speaking of Freddy Porter, if you'd care to introduce yourself, Freddy.
Okay, I'm playing Freddy Porter. He is I'm better with machines than I am with people, and I love planes, and that's my thing. And I've been working with Marilyn for a while. The rest I'm new, but sort of quiet and a bit of
You're in the corner of the small plane that you're in, probably polishing a gun or some variety of weapon.
Smoking a cigar.
Indeed, we have the mercenary of your group played by Johannes. So if you care to introduce your character, Johannes.
I think Hangouts is just crapping itself real hard. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So, Mercenary name's Jimmy DeWitt. He's in his 40s. He was in the Great War and bears some of the inscrutable scars that many people do on their spirits from that military fatigues that he got from the army when he was discharged. He's weathered by, weather really. It's not like he was a guide, but he spent a lot of time outdoors in the military. And he's very alert, as many there, with his rifle and his pistol, just getting ready.
His name. Unfortunately, I picked the girliest sounding name off here. It's the Lizzie.
Lizzie. That's a good name.
I just call it Lizzie. It's probably got some like massive long name that we never use, and we just call it Lizzie.
Okay, so you're all inside Lizzie, which is this rickety but well-maintained old plane. Obviously, Freddy spends a lot of his time maintaining her and making sure she's nailing things back on, etc. You're flying through this horrendous storm. Looking out of the front view screen, you can just see white in front of you. Lurking beyond the flurries of snow is just the merest vague silhouette suggestion of buildings in the distance, but only very faintly. You're having to squint against it. The temperature has dropped rapidly in the vessel. The metal of the plane doing nothing to keep out the searing cold.
Are there no lights for a landing strip?
Not that you can see.
Can I make out the landing strip?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do off.
And I rolled a 20 on this bit.
Okay, so this is going to be a poke around roll, because it's basically relying on luck, because it's just sheer luck as to whether you'll see it. So it's 2d6
okay.
plus your luck ability.
Yeah, 1. 6.
Okay, so that takes you up to 7 with the +1 from your luck. So as the way this game works, just to recap for you guys, is when you make a roll, if you get 10 plus, you have succeeded without any form of complication. If you get 7 to 9, you've succeeded, but there is some form of complication. If you get 6 or less, I just say what happens, which is normally something's gone very, very wrong. Okay, so you have got a 7. So as you're peering through this whiteout, this flurry of snow, you think you can just about make out the lights in the distance of some landing strip. However, they're not where you're expecting them to be. You must have gone off course in the blizzard. It's going to be quite difficult for you to actually get your plane to the landing lights. You can hear the wind whistling by the sides of the plane, the rattling of the metal panels. While your pilot is wrestling with the controls.
I would like to use my fast.
I'm just sort of I come rushing up sort of towards the cockpit and just have a look at the sort of the gauges and that sort of thing, and I see what's going on outside the window, and I just shoot a look in my eyes, and we've worked together enough for her to know that I'm telling her that trying to attempt this landing is a bad idea. Yeah.
Okay, as you're looking at the dials, you can see, Freddy, that the dials are just like spinning wildly and erratically round and around. And as you look out the front,
of course they are.
You can't even make out the distant lights. All you can see is just white and greyness in front of the view screen. We pan back again into the back of the plane. What about our guide, Griff Stone? What's Griff doing while this is going on?
Well, there's going to be like rattling and stuff, and he thinks he's coming in. I think at this point he's going to make sure he's strapped in and kind of grab hold of something. So if it does crash, he's going to be all right.
Okay. Now, Griff, we know that there have been other treasure hunters in this area looking for this cache of lost Roman coins, supposedly brought here by the missionaries, but no one's ever really found it. Have you guided any people here in the past looking for this treasure?
I think I would have tried to get people here, but they probably turned around halfway. So I mean, I've attempted a couple of times, you know what I mean?
Okay, so you've had a couple of abortive attempts to do this, but they've never really made it. So what do you think about these guys that you're travelling with? You're flying in an aeroplane through this ridiculous storm. The temperatures are dropping to freezing point. The metal panels by the side of you, even though you've strapped yourself in, are rattling dangerously. You can hear the wind whistling through the tiny micro fractures in the exterior of the plane. What do you think about this crazy bunch of fools that are trying to get in there in the worst weather you've ever seen in this area?
I think this is a stupid idea, but I think with these group of people, it's probably the best chance of doing something ridiculously impossible.
Okay, splendid. So as we sort of pan across to the opposite side of the plane where Jimmy DeWitt is sat, what's Jimmy doing while this whole situation's unfolding?
Well, Jimmy is stowing his equipment now that the going is getting real rough. And he looks at Griff strapping himself in. He does as well, as an afterthought. And then just leans over to Griff and just over the howl of the wind, it just yells, "I fucking hate planes!" And then leans back to his side and immediately throws up into a bag.
I will laugh at him and he'll hear me howl laughing through the wind.
That's why I don't trust you.
Okay, so
There you go.
we cut back to the cockpit. What are you doing?
I am acting under pressure because I've got fast reflexes. I get +2 on top of whatever else it is I'm doing. Roll plus reason 1. That's more like it. 13.
Okay, so as you're sort of watching the heroic efforts of your pilot, Marilyn, Freddy, you can see that almost impossibly, given the horrendous weather, she actually appears to be bringing it under control. And as you start approaching these landing lights, looking out of the window, Freddy, you can now see these landing lights, these flickering lights, as you're sort of... It's almost impossible that she'd be able to do this, but somehow she's wrestling with the controls and lining up the plane with these lights. And after a few moments, there's a boom, 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 boom. As the wheels and the landing gear of the plane touch down, you hear like a... as the wheels are skidding a little bit on the icy floor, and your plane starts bumping to a halt, having made it successfully down to the landing strip.
Awesome.
Everybody okay?
Yeah. Well done, Cap. I knew you'd get it right.
Of course you did. Now,
I'd fair.
where's this
Right.
fellow we're supposed to meet?
Okay, as you're saying that, and you're looking out of the window, you can actually see a figure wearing like a huge Arctic coat with fur around the hood. You can't really see the face because there's a scarf covering the lower half of the face. The hood is pulled down. You can see he appears to be standing a short distance away from where your plane has landed, just to the side of the runway. Although it's not really much of a runway, it's just like a length of sort of tarmac with a few lights by it. You can't even really see what looks to be like a control tower or anything like that.
I'm going to turn to Marilyn and say, Cap, I'm no fortune teller, but either that's our guy or that guy is really, really lost right now.
Okay, torches, jackets.
You got it, boss.
Freddy, give me a hand
Yep.
setting the plane. Griff,
And like,
why
even
don't you
as
go and
the
talk to
plane
him?
even as the plane hasn't like sort of come to a complete stop yet, I'm already opening the door and sort of ready to hop out and do what I need to do.
Okay, as you're opening the door, Freddy, one thing does strike you as a little bit unusual. The figure you can see wearing the sort of Arctic clothing, it appears to be like facing away from the runway back towards the main sort of like habitable area of Kentucky. You can just about make out to the sort of silhouettes of buildings in the distance.
I'll get up and I'll like indicate for Jimmy for us two to go and meet this guy. Once these guys sort the plane out, and we'll go and approach him.
Cool, yeah, I'm just putting in the landing blocks and doing a sort of walk around the plane, making sure that everything is okay.
Okay, so while you're sorting out the plane, Marilyn and Freddy, Jimmy and Griff, you climb out of the door. Obviously, you know what the weather is like. You're all togged up for this, so that's not an issue. Any survival gear you would reasonably have, you've got a guide with you. So, Griff, you'll have given them like the rundown of like, this is what you need, this is what survival gear you need. So any reasonable survival gear you could have, you will have. So if you have any doubts, feel free to ask. But you two climb out of the plane. You've got your Arctic coats on, etc. As you head towards this figure, you can only just about make him out through this horrendous storm that's lashing down. Snow is falling incredibly heavily, and the wind howls. You can see this figure doesn't appear to be moving at all, and Jimmy, with your trained senses, you can see there's actually like quite a lot of like snow collected on his shoulders and his head. Although you can't see his face because he's facing away from you. What are you to do?
So I'll tap him on the shoulder.
Okay, you head up to this guy and you tap him on the shoulder. However, as you do so, he doesn't move at all. And as you tap him on the shoulder, you get a feeling of intense cold in your finger, almost like frostbite, because you like pull your hand back. And you look at the end of your finger, you can see it's already started to go a sort of bluey black colour.
Shit, I've had that before, that's not good.
This figure remains facing away from you, has not moved a muscle.
Right, well, I'm going to go around to the front of him to see, you know what I mean? That's not good. like first impression. So I better go see what he looks like.
Okay, you head round to the front and you can see the face of the man you were expecting.
Oh, before I do as well, I'll turn to Jimmy and say, "Don't touch him. There's something wrong with him." So he knows.
Okay.
Safety first.
As you head round the front, you see the face of Jimmy Dowling, the man who wrote to you so excitedly, the man you're expecting to meet. However, his face is frozen solid. You can see there is frost clinging to his moustache and his wispy beard. However, that's not the thing that strikes you as the most odd. When you look at him, you can see that both of his eyes appear to be missing.
I'll kind of stagger back a bit in a bit of shock. And I'll be like, Jesus Christ!
Okay, indeed. And can you mark off the first box on your sanity check, which is startled? Since obviously you've just gone round expecting to see this guy and you found this frozen, eyeless corpsicle standing there. So, Jimmy, as you see Griff jumping back from this frozen figure, you notice that the frozen figure's hand by its side, encased in thick gloves, is holding what appears to be a rolled up piece of paper frozen into his hand. You can see frost clinging to the outside of it in his gloved fist.
I'm going to take my pistol, take hold of the barrel, and try to sort of knock on the guy's fingers to see if I can knock them loose or like get the paper out of his hand.
Okay, as you tap on his fingers with your pistol, you see that his fist is frozen solid. It has this rictus grip around the piece of parchment or paper.
As I get my composure back, I'll pull out my hunting knife and basically go, I'll have a go and see if I can like prise it or chop through his fingers. Something horrible like that.
Okay, it's certainly possible for you to do that. I'm not saying you can't by any means. However, bear in mind at the minute you are startled. Now, I'm aware you're a guide. Yeah. You can do it, but there is the chance that this will like upgrade your sanity loss effectively because you're hacking a guy's fingers off to get it.
Yeah, fair.
Which, if you're happy to do that, I have no problems with it at all.
I'll turn to Jimmy. How much do we need this piece of paper, do you reckon? I mean, I'm not confident in hacking a guy's fingers off after his eyes have been ripped out.
Well, it's he doesn't need them anymore. He's dead, so we make do with what we have, and what we have is a dead guy with a piece of paper. So,
but I'd say this, Jimmy, and I'll pass you the knife. You've definitely done more of this kind of stuff than me. I'm usually skinning animals, not people's fingers. It's got a bit more your wheelhouse than mine.
I think while all this is happening,
I'll take the knife.
While this is happening, I'm gonna tap Marilyn on the shoulder because we're still busy working on the plane, and just kind of like point out the fact that these two are handing a massive life to one another.
Just before we leave the plane and catch up to these guys, how much fuel have we got?
You've got plenty of fuel. You've easily got enough for the return trip.
No props. Stash the plane, head over to you guys, and join the "shall we take off the fingers" discussion.
Okay, so you said you were getting to work, Jimmy. So as the two of you walk up, Freddy and Marilyn, as the two of you walk up, you can see this frozen figure stood there, and you see this mercenary, Jimmy DeWitt, with a fairly nonchalant, sort of nonplussed air about him, with this large hunting knife just like sawing the frozen fingers of this body off that are wrapped around.
What the hell's going on?
You'll see me turning around as well, looking at like the snow for tracks and shit instead of looking at that.
yeah. You can see from the look on your guide's face that Mr. Stone's obviously trying to do his best, like not to look at what's going on. Although you'd recognise the knife that's being used as Griff's.
What the fuck is going on here?
Something going on with our mate James. He's frozen to death. Don't touch him, whatever you do.
Man's frozen solid.
And as you say that, Jimmy, you cut through the last of his fingers, and this frozen piece of paper and the severed fingers drop into the snow with like a soft thumping sound. Now I'm going to ask Marilyn and Freddy, can you please make me a reason roll? So that's 2d6 plus whatever your reason is. Just to see whether you are shocked by this horrendousness you're seeing.
12.
Okay, so Freddy, you obviously are shocked by this, as you said, but you manage to sort of like maintain your composure. You're absolutely fine from a sanity point of view. Yourself, however, Marilyn, can you mark off your first box on the sanity check? You are quite startled by this. I mean, obviously you knew that DeWitt was a sort of a stone cold mercenary who got some issues from like the war. Obviously, I mean, that's why you hired him for his sort of combat smarts, getting you out of a jam in trouble, but you weren't quite as aware he was like quite this cold to just like hack a man's fingers off. Just to get a piece of paper.
A dead man.
Oh yeah, he's dead, but even so, like desecrating a corpse isn't just something you do and you shrug it off. So you're quite startled by this.
What happened to his eyes? Did you do that as well?
Yeah, look, guys, this is not what this is not what I signed up for. I mean, I'm here to fix the plane and make sure that everything's working. And you guys are off the plane for 5 minutes and you're chopping people's fingers off and gouging people's eyes out.
The eyes was not us. The eyes were there before we came to this guy. This is how we found it like that. Minus now the fingers.
Doesn't make the chopping the fingers off any better.
As you're saying this, Griff, the piece of paper that has now fallen out of the fingerless hand just happens to have landed like next to your left foot. It's still quite frozen, but you could probably prise it open.
Yeah, I'll pick it up. We wanted to check what this was, and he doesn't need his fingers anymore, so we kind of opted to go for what this information might be. Useful to keep us alive. I'll start trying to...
Well, I hope it's worth it.
Well, let's hope, because the guy's dead.
Okay, as you prise this piece of paper open, Griff, you can see it's what appears to be a small sketch or a drawing. It's obviously very hastily done with like a biro or a fountain pen or something similar. And as you're looking at it, you can see that it appears to be a picture of some kind of man. It's very crudely drawn. Obviously, the person who drew it didn't have a great deal of artistic skill. It's a picture of a man, but he's very tall. His legs and arms are very long. And the most interesting thing about the picture is the face of the man. It's a little more than a blank expressionless circle, but where the eyes would be on this figure, whoever drew it has sort of scribbled over it, putting a great deal of pressure on the paper, so there's just these two black sort of scribbles for the eyes.
I'll kind of shout out to them guys. Well, I hope that's not the thing that did this to him.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
It's not something I've hunted before, I can tell you that now.
As you guys
something like this.
As you guys are stood there, incredibly, the storm is getting worse. And you can now, since you're all a bit further along the runway, you can actually see the sort of farmhouses, etc. of Kentucky in the distance. However, it's odd. Everything seems quiet. Almost a little too quiet.
Well, I think we should at least move along and get out of this.
Whatever's going on here, we can't take off again. And I'm going to need at least a couple of hours sleep before I want to fly all that distance.
I do think someone needs to tell the police about what's happened here. Someone needs to find...
We need to go and take a quick look around, so let's move.
Yeah.
There's no point standing here and freezing ourselves to death as well.
If they find us here, they're just going to assume that we're the ones who did this to him.
I will do my job by leading the group and doing that part of it.
Okay, so as you're leading the group, Griff, what are you looking for as you sort of head up towards these farmhouses?
Basically looking for tracks or anything that's like weird, like anything to do with this like picture or something. So any weird tracks or anything like that. I'm just trying to find a place to like shelter. Okay,
as you head further in, you see you're on the outskirts of Kentucky, and what appears to be a very small conglomeration of farmhouses, effectively like a small village. You can see there's a number of farmhouses, barns, etc. On what looks in the distance like it might be some form of church or a chapel, perhaps. You can't see any people moving around or really any tracks, but given that the snow's coming down so heavily, that doesn't really surprise you.
Right, cool. Right, well, I'll get to one of the farmhouses first. Because they're the closest thing out of the farmhouses. Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll head towards one of the farmhouses.
Okay, not a problem. You all head towards the nearest of the farmhouses. As you get nearer, you can see what appears to be an old tractor outside. It's obviously not being used at the moment. There's a tarpaulin thrown over the top of it, which has snow collecting on it. You can see there's a flickering light, perhaps a candle or a lantern, shining through one of the windows of this farmhouse. You don't see any real activity around it. Obviously, it's the deepest depths of winter, so there'll be no farming going on at the moment.
Yeah.
As you're heading towards it, you can just about hear what appears to be the plaintive sound of what might be a harmonica or an instrument of some kind playing inside the farmhouse. However, it's very low and very quiet.
Okay, we'll head towards that then. There should be inhabitants.
Okay, not a problem. You get to the farmhouse door. It's an old farmhouse building built of wood, very sturdy. You're standing outside the door of this farmhouse. You can hear this low sound of this harmonica playing inside. What do you do?
Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, you bang on the door and you hear the sound of the harmonica inside stop. The door opens and a grizzled old man with a gingery looking beard opens the door just a little crack so you can see the side of his face, peers out at you and he's like, "Who's there?"
Hello, sir. My name's Griff, and these are my friends. Are we all right to get a little bit of shelter? We've just landed in the airport, and we need to get our bearings.
Oh, what are you doing out in the storm? It's not safe.
Well, exactly. We've come here to meet someone, and we're trying to find them. Are we all right to come in for a second?
His eyes narrow a little bit suspiciously, and he says, "Well, I'm not sure about just letting strangers into my own home. You could be anybody."
Do you know of any kind of police station or any community area we can find people in?
He says, "Police station? Where do you think you are? This isn't the big city."
Is there any place where there might be people that could help us?
Well, I expect most people will be gathering in the chapel. And he sort of like points his finger out into the distance.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going to ask you, Griff, can you please make me a convince roll? So that's a roll plus your affinity score. Just see whether you can like persuade this guy to let you in.
Alright, 5, that's 7. Plus my affinity, which is -1. So 6.
Okay, he looks out the door and he's like, "Yeah, the chapel's probably the best for you." And then he slams the door shut.
Well, I guess the citizens here are as warm as the climate. Head to the church, everyone.
Sounds like it's the only option.
Well, there'll definitely be people there. That's what we need right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys start making your way through this very small town. Like I say, it's barely more than a village. You can see that the snow is collecting deeply between the various buildings, and it's quite hard going, to be honest, walking through there. You're having to like lift your feet quite high to trudge through the snow. But as you get near the church, you can just about make out the sound of low voices singing hymns from inside the church.
Oh, that's a good sign.
You can see there are 2 large wooden doors. There is what appears to be a man standing just outside the door. You can see he's just tapping out a pipe on his leg, tapping out some old tobacco and packing some more into it. He's got a coat on his hood pulled up against the weather. He's like,
Yeah, we're walking towards it. Good evening, sir.
he looks up at it and he's like, evening. Terrible weather for the time of year, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's rough. It's rough out there. Don't know how you guys caught with it.
Well, we're used to it in these parts. It happens every winter, although I've not seen... And he wipes some snow off his head. I've not seen a storm like this. Oh, must be 3 winters now. Oh, terrible.
That's it. You haven't seen anything strange around here at the moment?
It looks like it isn't strange. What do you mean, strange?
Well, any animals that have come into this area, anything that you've not seen before?
He says, well, we occasionally have problems with bears and wolves and the like, but, well, we know how to deal with them around here. Most farmers have trouble with them at some point, but, you know, we're a God-fearing community. We still like to gather in the church. Weather be damned, he said, and he, like, shakes his fist at the sky.
Well, it's good to hear. Good faith will keep you strong in these harsh times. Dark days.
As he's talking to you, he reaches under his coat and he takes out a small hip flask and he uncorks the top of it. The pungent aroma of some sort of bootlegged liquor wafts out of it, and he looks around for a bit and then shrugs and takes a nip of it, smacks his lips loudly, and then he holds it out towards you, Griff.
Yeah. Nowadays, I won't accept that because that lowers my temperature. But it's 1920s, so obviously it warms you up.
Indeed, it's good. It's good for you.
It's good for you.
You take this flask off him, and the aroma that wafts up to you, it's a foul-smelling liquor of some variety. Probably some sort of like bathtub gin or something. It's obviously not been made in any reputable distillery. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it'll hopefully warm me up and wake me up. I'll have a nip.
You have a little nip of it. It's probably one of the rankest things you've ever tasted, but it does have a bit of a fiery kick to it, which isn't altogether unpleasant. You probably cough and splutter a little bit.
I will obviously turn to my friends and offer them some of it after they've seen me.
I'll take a swig and pass it along. I'll probably pull my own hip flask out afterwards and wash the taste away. And offer it to the old guy, you know, while we're sharing. It's like an LT event. Dave.
He takes it off you and he's like, not bad, and he passes it back to you. Are the rest of you having a sip of this old man's hooch?
Absolutely.
Old man's hooch.
You know James Dowling at all? We were supposed to meet him. He said he got a job for us.
He said, well, now you mention it, yes, he did come to speak to me recently. He wanted to know, well, I'm one of the older residents hereabouts, and he was asking me about local history and legends and stuff like that. There's not a lot I could tell him. I mean, obviously there's the legend of the missionaries who were supposed to go past here, but most of us don't believe that tale now. I mean, so many people have been looking for it and not found anything. Well, how could it be true? He did say he was expecting some people coming in, but I've not seen him for at least a couple of days. But then I've not been getting out much. I mean, what with the weather and everything, I mean, God, I'd want to be out in this.
I can kind of see that you sort of are toying with the idea of saying something about what we found on the runway, and I just shoot you a expression like not now. So,
is there any way you could recommend where we could get a warm bed for the night?
Well, if you're looking for somewhere to stay, the chapel will never close its doors to people in need. When you come in, he reaches behind him and he like pulls open one of these wooden doors. The sound of the hymn singing inside gets louder as the door opens, and you can see a fairly plain chapel. There's an aisle down the centre, sort of wooden benches along it. There's a slightly raised dais at the front of it. There's a young man stood on the dais. He has a Bible on the lectern in front of him, and he's talking to the parishioners as you enter. You hear him saying, the weather such as this, my friends, is sent to test us in these times. This is a test of our strength, of our community, and our ability to look after each other. In these times, we must not forget that there are those less fortunate than ourselves, and we must give shelter to those who need it. We must draw together as a community. After all, that is what this community was founded on. Beliefs such as those. Do not look upon this storm as something we must be scared of, my friends. This is God's way of drawing us closer together. A couple of people sort of nod and make appropriate murmurs. Yes. Now, if you'll please turn to page 234 of the hymn book. And as he's saying that, they turn to page 234 and they start singing. It's not a hymn that any of you are familiar with.
It's
no.
Sorry.
So what are you guys doing? These people are singing. The guy's finished giving his like mini sermon.
Why is it unfair to ask that preacher who my enemy is?
I'm going to grab a hymnal and just flip to page 234 and just see what it's called and see if I can follow along and maybe blend in a little bit.
Okay, you turn to page 234 and you see that the hymn is titled The Strength That Comes From Within. And it appears to be a stirring hymn about everyone has this deep inner well of strength that's buried deep within inside them, and in times of great crisis they have to call on this strength to help them overcome all odds. And then it tapers off into the normalcy of the Lord knows how much each person can bear and will never give you more than you can handle, etc.
All right. And how is the church staying warm? What are they doing to keep warm? Is there a fire going, or do they have some kind of...
They appear to have what appear to be like a couple of small heaters, one on either side of the various aisles. You can see that a couple of people have sort of like clustered a bit nearer to them, and sort of the seats nearer to the central sort of aisle are pretty much empty as everyone's like clustering to be a little bit closer to these heaters while they sing. I mean, obviously they're very devout people, but there's nothing about being devout that says you have to freeze while you're singing your hymns.
Sure. I'm considering maybe just going and offering to see if I can soup the heaters up a little bit, give them a little more oomph as a way to sort of buy some favor with these people.
Okay, who are you speaking to about that?
So I'm going to walk over to a group of people that are crowded around one of the heaters and say, let me see if I can get this thing going a little stronger for you so you don't all have to sort of huddle around here in the corner. And,
okay, make me a convince roll, so that's a roll plus affinity.
All right. 4.
Okay, so you go a bit closer and say, "Oh, let me have a look at this. I'll soup it up for you." The people are like, "Oh, we know you're messing with the heaters. We've only got these two. Oh, if you ruin it, we'll all be freezing. We'll not have to move over to that side of the church."
I assure you, I know what I'm doing, and I can make these things work really well. But I don't want to upset anybody, so I'll leave you to it.
They all sort of like grumble a little bit, but they settle down as it becomes obvious you're not going to interfere with the machines. While all this is going on, what's Jimmy DeWitt up to?
Is the old guy from the doors like hanging back there, or?
Indeed. He's left the door open a tiny crack as you guys have walked through, but he's still stood outside. He's just reloaded his pipe and he's chuffing away on it.
Yeah, I think I'm hanging back there with him and holding on to the hip flask and just like raising it to him as we pan back to Jimmy. And
he looks at you and he winks.
Like the Holy Spirit.
He winks and he's like, I'll put hairs on your chest, my boy. And he takes a big drag off his pipe, then sort of offers the pipe to you as well.
Yeah, I'll take the... I hand him back the hip flask and take the pipe.
He chucks the hip flask away.
Smoking there.
You take a chug for the pipe and pass it back to him, and he says, "So what brings you young people to Kentucky, especially godforsaken weather like this?"
No, it's not the weather. It's well, we're on. I'm searching for the words, and I'm playing time by like panning across the entire interior, and just. My gaze returns to him and I go, "We're on a holiday."
A holiday? Well, you picked a fine bloody time for it.
Yeah, it wasn't so much about our scheduling. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Well, you might want to check your travel arrangements in future, lad.
No. Well, we ended up here, and you have the Holy Spirit both in the ecclesiastical sense and liquid sense as well.
He laughs and sort of slaps his knee as you say that, and it tapers off into a hacking smoker's cough. He's like, oh, sorry about that.
What's there to do around here?
He says, well, most of the people who can have already left for the winter before the storm came in. But those of us here, well, we like to have a little sing-song, maybe a few drinks in the evening. But the chapel's the only building that's big enough to have most of the people in it, so we normally tend to meet there. The father isn't too bothered about it. I suppose he's quite progressive, if you're saying that sort of thing. Yes, it's not bad for a young fellow.
So what do you folks do for Christmas around these parts? It's coming up, so...
He says, well, we don't tend to really go in for all that sort of thing, putting decorations up and stuff like that. We normally have a few wreaths that we put up in the chapel, but it's all fairly low key. I mean, most of us are working out of our farms up until the last minute. It's only the storm being so horrible this year that's driven us all indoors a little bit earlier.
Is it usually like this, or?
Oh no, like I say, I can't remember it being this bad for at least 3 winters. Terrible storm, and I think it's getting worse, he says as he looks up at the snowfall, which is getting heavier.
So it gets like this, and I push the door open a bit and point outside. It gets like this every 3 years at least?
Oh, well, it's not a regular thing, right? But yeah, we do get a bad one every now and again.
I wouldn't have guessed Kentucky gets like this, but it shows how much I know. Spent more time in Europe than anything.
Okay, now while this is going on, what are the rest of you guys up to inside the church?
I'm just kind of casually hanging around the sort of group by the heater, and I'm just going to start making small talk about sort of how long the storm has been going on and that sort of thing. And while I'm doing that, I'm just sort of taking a look around, just trying to get my bearings. Is there anything sort of that strikes me as interesting or unusual in terms of what's inside the building?
There's nothing particularly unusual that you can see at first glance, but if you wish, you can make me a poke around roll. So if you're physically moving around and looking for stuff, that will be a roll plus look.
All right. 8.
Okay, so with 8, you can choose one of the following. So you can find a hidden item. You can find a hidden area. You can find a minor item. It's my choice of what the minor item is. Or you can determine the presence of a physical hazard, if there is one.
I think finding a minor item.
Okay, so as you're looking around the church, you can see just off to the side of the dais is what appears to be a small statue that is painted, or the paint's quite badly chipped off. It's pretty much of the standard sort of Jesus statue that you would see in a church. One thing that does strike you as odd, though, the proportions of the statue seem a little off. It's almost as though someone had taken a normal human proportions and then stretched to the person. And you notice, unlike most statues where the Christ figure would be holding their hands together and looking upwards towards heaven, in this sense the hands are held as in prayer, but the figure is actually looking downwards.
So I'm going to sort of just tap one of the people that I'm standing around on the shoulder and sort of motion to the statue. I've never seen one like that before. That's interesting.
He says, "Oh, we've had that statue here as long as I can remember. It's been here since I was a lad."
What's he looking down at?
He says, "Wow, there are those of us who say that, he's looking downwards towards the earth, where most of us make our living here, the bounty of the land and all that. Most of them think that he's looking downwards to bless the farmland."
What is the statue made out of?
It appears to be made out of plasterboard or some sort of cheap equivalent, like plaster of Paris, effectively.
Can I do a similar thing, John? Like the different part of the church, just be like poking around.
Yep, make a roll plus look.
9.
Okay, so in a similar vein, you can choose to find a hidden area, a minor item, or you can determine the presence of a physical threat, if there is one.
To be fair, with kind of how I am, I'm going to be looking for like threats and stuff.
Okay, you don't see any obvious signs of physical threat. However, you notice that like quite a few of the people in here, and there must be about sort of like 20 people, not including the cleric in here. You notice quite a few of them are sort of like nudging themselves a little, and they keep casting like sidelong glances towards yourself and your companions.
Right. It's not really.
It could just be the fact that you're strangers in this very small farming community.
What sort of age range of people are we looking at?
Most of them seem sort of like in their 40s. There's a few sort of older people in here.
No teenagers, no kids.
No, you don't see any children or teenagers. You don't see anyone you think who's below the age of about 30.
Right. It's all adults.
That could just be because it's evening at church, but...
Yeah, kids could be at home. If there are kids.
As you're doing all of this investigating, the sermon starts winding to a close. People start closing their hymn books up, putting them back on the little shelves in front of their seats, and slowly people start to filter out of the church. The young cleric who stood up on the dais at the front of the church says, "And may the Lord bless all of you and see that you are all safely back to your homes. Remember, stay warm, stay well, and we will all thrive again come the spring. Blessings of the Lord be upon you all." At which point the people are starting to file out, sort of nod and hold their hands up, and they slowly start filing out of the chapel, leaving only
John,
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to read the priests.
I see. So,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
make a roll plus passion.
Yeah. Ooh, 11.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm assuming you've got the basic moves in front of you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do.
you've got hold 3, which you can spend to ask certain questions.
So what's the priest really feeling?
Okay, you notice as the sermon's sort of winding to a close, he's almost got a look of excitement on his face as the people are leaving the church, which is a little odd because although he's quite animated during his sermon, you'd think that, once you start winding down, that's it done. That's the most exciting bit of the sermon done. But it's almost like he's got an air of anticipation about him as people are leaving the church.
Okay, so that feeds into the next question. What does he intend to do?
Okay, you think that he doesn't intend to leave the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's settling back, almost as though he's like waiting for something.
Right. So he's... Yeah. And... I'll hold on to the last one for now.
Okay, no problems. Now, since this is reading a person, this is normally when you're having some sort of interaction with them. So I'm assuming you've sort of like walked forward and you're like just making general chit chat to the priest. So we'll play that out now. Are you asking him anything else? You've obviously just like made general chit chat.
Well, I've introduced myself. We shook hands, and I've been hanging back and watching the guys leave and like taking his measure while that happens. And well, I turn to him and I go, would you happen to have any, provisions that me and my friends could use? We have just landed at the airstrip back there, and I'm afraid the only thing we have is hardtack, and that's not really,
Okay, the priest who has introduced himself as Jacob Gaston to you, he says, well, we do have some small amounts of food and drink in the church. If you're looking for any more than that, then you would be best to go to the general store. It is just across the street, although I do not believe they are open at the minute because of the storm. But I'm sure if you knock on the door, they will be happy to help you out.
Very good. And your doorman said that we could lay our heads down here tonight. Is that true?
Of course, the door of our chapel is always open to those in need. If you wish to stay here, of course, you are more than welcome. Although, I'm afraid I will have to switch the heaters off after... Once everyone has left, I do not have enough fuel to keep them running all the time, I'm afraid. We have to carefully ration our fuel here, since we will not be able to get supplies in until the storm has passed.
Well, the roof is more than enough for now.
Well then, you are welcome to stay here. I trust you do not mind if I begin tidying away. I have the hymn books to gather in. I have some papers I need to look at. You understand?
Yeah. Did you say there's a general store across the road?
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go over there. Let's see if we can get some sleeping bags for us or something.
Yeah. So while this happens, I'm gonna.
We'd have sleeping bags and stuff on the plane.
Yeah. You've got basic survival stuff.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Didn't think about it.
I'm gonna help the priest to clean up, whatever.
He nods gratefully. He's basically just gathering the book. So he switches, as the last of the people filter out, he switches the 2 heaters off, and you can see he heads towards what appears to be a small... There's a couple of doors behind the dais. He heads towards one, which seems to be a small store cupboard, starts putting the hymn books, the Bibles, etc., in the store cupboard, and then he heads towards the other door, which is, you would assume, his quarters. And he says, well, I must thank you for your help. I must be preparing for tomorrow's sermon, but as I have said, you and your friends are welcome to sleep in the church. It is the least we can do.
Father, before you go,
but please call me Jacob. There's no need to stand on ceremony.
Obviously, I'd like to make a donation to the church for in thanks for allowing us to stay here tonight. But I wonder if I could just pick your brain for another couple of minutes.
Oh, but of course.
I understand there's a cave network not too far from here.
Well, so the old legends tell us. I know there have been a number of people who have come to Artana, and it is good for how you say the tourism for people who come looking for these caches of old coins that are believed to be there. But I've yet to see any evidence of them myself. But there are caves throughout the area, but I'm not sure I would go visiting them in such inclement weather.
Is there perhaps a place I could find a map of the caves, or...?
Well, the store would be your best place to look. It's where most people normally stop off to get their provisions. Although, as I say, I do not think it will be open at the moment.
Many thanks. I'll give him, a fairly fat donation for my D6 wealth.
Okay, not a problem. He takes out his little collection box and sort of holds it out to you. As you're putting your coins in, one thing you do notice is strange. You can see through the little slot on the top of the coin box. You can see what appear to be a number of very old-looking gold coins already inside the collection box.
While all this is happening, I'm going to just head over to Marilyn and tap her on the shoulder and say, well, boss, if we're going to be spending the night here, I'm going to quickly head back to the plane and get everyone's overnight stuff. Because we can bring the bags with us. Yeah. Is that all right?
Yes, I'll come with you, because I want to know what we're going to do about that body.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was sort of also had in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Leaving it lying next to the plane is not the best of plans.
Okay, so we're going to jump back to Griff Stone, who I believe you were heading over to the convenience store, Griff.
Yeah.
So you head across the street and you can see a small one-storey building. It has a glass window with a shutter pulled down, and it has general store sort of painted on the front of the glass window, but the paint has chipped off quite badly. You can see a chipped and faded green wooden door. It appears to be shut at the minute. You can't see any lights on in the store.
I'll bang on it. and help whoever's living here.
You bang on the door and you hear a woman's voice from inside go, "Who is it? We're closed."
Hello, we're visitors. We've just had to land our plane. We need some
Plane?
supplies for tonight. Yes, yeah. We just landed our plane here. We need a few supplies for tonight, if it's okay. We can pay. We have money.
As soon as you say like money, there's a noticeable change in the tone of the voice. The voice say, "Oh, just hold on a second, sir. I'm not decent. Just give me a moment, sir."
No problem.
And you hear the sound of like shuffling and things being rearranged behind the door. The door opens and you see a fairly sort of middle-aged woman stood there. Her hair's all like up in curlers. She's wearing what appears to be a nightgown that she's just like thrown a thick coat over. She opens the door and says, "Well, we've not got in much at the moment, sir. What with the storm and everything. But well, you're welcome to come in and have a look around."
Oh, thank you. I should be able to find something at least that can help us over the night. Yeah, I'll come in.
Okay, she gestures you inside. As you head inside, it's a fairly simple local store. It's mostly canned goods that are remaining in the store at the minute. Potatoes, corned beef, vegetables, preserved, etc. Stuff that could survive for a good long time.
Yeah. I'll grab us a few tins. So we got some to eat tonight.
Yep, you grab some tins, you pay her the money. She tests the money in her teeth as you hand it over, and then says, "Oh well, thank you very much. Will there be anything else?"
No, it should be fine. Well, we've got sleeping bags and stuff like that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Maps, Dave, maps.
Oh, map. That's yeah. Did they have any maps of the local area?
She says, "Well, just so happens I do have a couple of the maps of the. Are you looking for the local caves? Are you?"
Yes, one of my friends is quite interested in them.
Oh wow, yes. Here. Oh, you know about the missionaries who went through this part and supposedly used the caves to hide from persecution.
Yes, I have heard of them myself. I'm a bit of a guide in this area and stuff, so I've been around here before.
Oh, well, she gestures at a couple of sort of crates that haven't yet been unpacked and says, "Well, why don't you sit yourself down, dearie, and I'll have to go and get one of the maps out of the back room, and I'll tell you all about it. Would you like a cup of tea or?"
Oh, a cup of tea would be fantastic. I'll keep it well, really warm. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'll just get some water in the pan and on the hob. It might take a little while, but and you hear her, she disappears into a back room, and you hear like clattering of pots and pans. A few minutes pass whilst Griff is waiting for his tea to be made. Was anyone else heading over to the general store?
No.
Okay. In which case, I'll skip straight.
For a nice warm cup of tea.
I'll skip straight over those few minutes. She comes back in with a couple of cups of tea, and she puts down a crumpled up piece of paper on the crate in front of you. And she says, "Oh well, there's a map of the local cave systems. I'm afraid they don't show all the tunnels that are rumoured to run under the farmsteads. Only the main caves. The main one that most people seem to go to is this northern cave here." She points at the map. But you might find it a bit difficult getting there, dearie. What with this weather? Oh, the snow will be backed up something fierce.
Oh, so we might have a look around, but yeah, I don't think we'll go fully in. But
well, as you can see, there's a few more caves marked on it. There's the western cave and the southern cave here, but from what I've heard, the people who've gone to the western cave say there's not much there of interest, and it only goes a little way. But well, I'm no explorer. I mean, I just sell the maps, dearie. Oh, drink up your tea; it'll be going cold.
Oh, thank you. I'll drink tea. Can I do puzzle things out to see if I can find a clue to where maybe?
You most certainly can. Can you make me a roll plus reason?
Yeah. 11. Yeah.
Okay, so with 11, you can ask 3 of the questions listed on Puzzle Things Out on the basic moves on your sheet, or you can gain 1 law.
Right. Oh, I can get a law, can you?
It's up to you. 3 questions or 1 law.
And the lore can be accompanied by dark insight on John's discretion.
Indeed.
Right, so my law move, I've been everywhere. You can spend a law point to make a reason roll about any place. Is that kind of like the same as this, but with places or something?
Basically, the difference here is with puzzle things out at the minute, you're trying to establish some clues from the map.
Yeah.
If you spend a point of your law to look into the caves, you've actually been to like those caves.
Right, cool.
So-
All right, okay, I will take the law point.
Okay.
That's what I'll spend.
Okay, so you take the tea, you look at the map, you listen to this woman's old warblings. As you're sipping your tea, you happen to glance over in the direction of the church through the glass window. You're obviously thinking about what your friends are doing. As you do so, you catch sight of the reflection of the old woman in the window, who's like obviously stood just behind you drinking her tea. The reflection's slightly faded out because you're viewing it through glass, but as you look at the reflection, there's a few moments where as she turns to face the window, you see that her eyes are just gaping holes of blackness in the reflection that appear to be staring directly at you.
Okay. Well, that since I have got a bit of insanity at the moment, that will kind of shock me and make me kind of like spill my tea a bit.
Okay, tick off the next sanity thing on your track.
Oh, god damn it. Why am I going insane? I need to stop doing things.
That's the downside to getting the law point.
Ah, cool. Nice. I'll basically, at that point, I'll kind of like quickly, hurriedly drink the tea and go, well, thank you, I think I've got everything now, and I'll need to get back to my friends.
Okay, as you're saying that, the woman who's actually obviously still stood behind you because you're just looking at her reflection, she puts her hand on your shoulder and says, "Oh, have you got everything you need, dearie?" in a kindly voice. But as she puts her hand on your shoulder, for a few moments you feel this numbing cold seeping down through your shoulder.
Kind of jump up or something.
Yeah, you leap up. The cup now empty falls out of your hands and cracks as it hits the floor. You turn round. You turn around. There's just this sweet old woman, like a cup of tea. And she says, "Oh, don't you worry about it, dearie. Everyone gets the shakes and the shivers in this weather. I hope you find what you're looking for."
Yeah. I'll grab the map and the beans and stuff, and then get the hell out of there.
No problems. And you hustle your way back over to the church.
Now I'm shocked.
Okay, as you get back into the church, you can see that there's only really your friends left in there now. The cleric, Jacob, has retreated into his private quarters. The two heaters have been turned off, so the temperature's started to fall a little bit in here, but obviously there is shelter from the wind, so it still feels warmer than outside. Describe in your startled state, what do you look like when you come into the church? What do your friends see as you hustle back in with this map clutched in your hand?
They'll see me like visibly shaking, which is obviously not something that I do, you know what I mean? And they just see me kind of like darting around a bit, being a bit more paranoid, a bit more wary as I come in and look around the corner and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so the door flies open,
skittish.
and you see this skittish, shaken form of Griff hustle back inside, shutting the door behind him.
Yeah.
Griff, what's going on?
I walk up to a pew and sit down. I don't know what I just saw then.
What more? It isn't more people like the guy at the airstrip, or Peter out there?
No, kind of a bit like the picture. More like that thing that was drawn, but not. But
Well, you found another picture.
no. I went to the general store to get a few things. There was a woman there. I got this stuff and I talked to her about the map, and I got a map of the place. And then as I was finishing my cup of tea that she made for me, I noticed in the reflection of the window that she had the same eyes, those big black eyes. That's what I could see in the reflection of the window. And then just before I left, she kind of touched me, and I felt like numb, cold down my shoulder. And that's when I just got the hell out of there as quick as possible.
It's a trick of the light, Griff.
It didn't feel like I could. I know what trick of the light is, right? You know what I mean? I've been in the wilderness and stuff. I've seen through glass and storms and things like that. That was not what it was. That was not a shadow.
Did she spike your tea?
I don't feel. I didn't feel anything. You know what I mean?
How much of that hooch did you drink at the church door?
Same as you. How do you feel?
Spooked.
Oh, I feel a lot more than spooked right now.
What about this map then?
Yes, yeah, I've got a map of the caves.
A map of the caves?
Yeah.
They've mapped out the caves.
No, apparently just the main caves, the ones that people know about and stuff. Ones that
We
people
need
go
to find out where Dowling was mapping. Do we know where his house is?
No. We just know he lived.
I bet the preacher does. I'm also kind of concerned about leaving him out there. I know he's going to get covered by snow fairly soon with it going at this rate, but it just seems wrong
we
to
need
leave
to.
him there.
I think you and I need to go and get our
We
stuff
need to
off the
go
plane
and
and figure
discover
something
him.
out. Yeah.
Okay, so the suggestion seems to be that Marilyn and Freddy are going to head back to the plane. Is that correct?
Yep.
You guys gonna be all right?
Yeah, we'll be quick. We're just going to get our
To be
overnight
honest,
stuff
if it
and
wasn't snowing so much, I'd suggest we all get back in the plane and bug the hell out of here.
doesn't look like we're going to be taking off for a while, Captain.
Yeah.
Thank Christ.
Bit of the land.
Okay, so the two of you leave the church. The snow is getting worse and worse all the time. You can't see more than about 5 foot in front of you, but you know roughly where the plane is, so you strike out in that direction. As you're heading there, the wind howling around you, the temperatures have really started to drop. Even through your sort of Arctic weather gear you're wearing, you can feel this sort of numbing cold in the ends of your fingers and in the ends of your toes. But you make your way through this thick snow. As you start getting towards your plane, you see the comforting silhouette of it emerging and getting closer to you. You can smell a sort of petrol-y smell, strong petrol-y smell in the air.
Oh no! What's happened to Lizzie?
That doesn't smell good, boss. Let me go take a look. So I'll start running towards the plane to see if I can figure out where the
Be
leak is coming
careful!
from.
You don't know how far it's spilled.
Okay.
As I'm running, I just throw her a thumbs up behind me.
Okay, Freddy, you sprint towards the plane, and as you get alongside it, you can see what appear to be 2 jagged tears or rents down the side of the plane near where the fuel is stored, and a lot of it is obviously leaked out into the snow, and that's what you're smelling.
I scream back to Marilyn and say, "Boss, you need to see this."
I'll be following along.
Yeah, a few moments later you run up behind Freddy and you likewise see these 2 jagged tears down the side of Lizzie, and most of the fuel appears to have leaked out into the snow.
Is there anything I can do to, like in an emergency patch-up job?
Do you have any move or anything appropriate that would enable you to do that?
I can use elbow grease, which lets me repair a broken machine. And I get a +2 because I'm a plane specialist.
Go for it, make your roll.
All right. 5.
Okay.
I rolled a 1 and a 2. This is exciting.
You think patching up the actual tear isn't a problem. However, the fact that all of the fuel has leaked out is a problem. You can repair it so that you could put more fuel in. Not a problem. That's easy for you. You're an engineer. Yeah. You know this plane like you know the back of your hand. But without more fuel to go in it, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I turn and I tell Marilyn as much. I say, "Boss, I can fix this, but we're out of fuel already. It's already too late. We're going to need to find something to fill it up with."
As you're looking around, Freddy.
For now, let's get our stuff out of the plane and get back to the others.
I think that we need to
split up.
And I don't like this body being right next to the plane. It's going to look really, really bad if someone finds this.
It's funny you should mention that, Freddy, but as you look back over your shoulder to talk to Marilyn, it suddenly occurs to you, where is the body?
Boss, where's James?
Where's James?
You look around. You've both
Okay.
been so intent on getting to the plane.
That's not good.
No,
He's
it's
either
not.
under a snowdrift, in which case what they don't know we know won't hurt us. Or
I think that's
somebody's moved
optimistic.
him.
As you're saying this and you're looking around, Marilyn, you can just about make out something, a small shape, no bigger than that, sort of sticking out from one of these snowdrifts, roughly about where the body was.
Okay, I'll go and have a look what that is.
Okay, you head over to it, and out of like this hump of snow, you see what appears to be the end of a shoe sticking out.
Right, he's definitely been moved.
Oh, you sure that's him, boss?
It looks like the shoes he was wearing when you saw him frozen there.
Yeah. And look where it is in relation to the plane. He was here, there's nothing else. There's no other snow piles here big enough for him. It's got to be... He's been moved. We need to get the stuff and get back to the other guys. I don't really like the idea of staying in this town where it's so weird right now.
No. All right, boss, you keep a lookout. I'm going to grab our stuff off the plane and we can head back as soon as possible. And I jump up onto the plane.
Okay, so while you guys are getting your stuff, I'm going to cut back to the two guys in the chapel. It's only been like a couple of minutes since your friends left when you hear a on the door of the church, and a voice shouts, "Father! Father! I've got your delivery for you!" The door at the back of the church opens and you see Father Jacob sort of hustle out of there, and he says, just hold on a second, I'll be right there. He walks over to the door, like past you two, nods at you both, opens the door, and you see quite a burly looking man wearing what appears to be a butcher's apron with a coat over the top of it. He's holding what appears to be a huge haunch of meat in his hands.
I bet he is.
He passes it over to the father, who sort of staggers back a little bit as he takes it, and he says, "There you go, Father. That should keep you going for a while."
It's long pork on
He says, thank you very much. Thank you very much, my son. That's very kind of you. Are you sure you can spare this much?" And he says, don't you worry about it, Father. I've got plenty of it in storage. You take care of yourself now. And he tugs his cap, turns around and walks off into the snow. The father shouts after him again, "Well, thank you very much, my child," and then shuts the door after him, and he starts heading towards this small storeroom carrying this huge haunch of meat.
Oh, do you need help with that, Father?
Oh, if you would, I'd be ever so grateful. And he sort of, between the two of you, sort of carry this huge haunch to the storeroom. He says, "Well, I know it's not an actual cool room, but with the weather as cold as it is, I think it'll be all right in the storeroom."
Yeah. They cure these things anyway.
Oh yes, I wouldn't know. I'm not the butcher myself, but I'm sure you're right. Okay, so as you're carrying that, can you please make me a poke around roll? So it's a roll plus luck, or you can use reason if you prefer.
No, I'm more lucky than reasonable. Just about 7.
Okay, as you're sort of helping Father Jacob put this huge haunch of meat into the storeroom, you sort of turn it over to try and get it on one of these shelves. And as you do, you notice that on one part of the meat there is what appears to be a tattoo of an anchor.
Okay.
Father Jacob doesn't appear to have noticed that you've noticed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I furrow my brow, but I make it into an effort of struggling with the meat. And let's see if puzzle things out would help me. Yeah, let's puzzle this stuff out.
Okay.
Puzzle it out.
Yep. 10.
Okay, so you can either ask me 3 questions, or you could go for that extra lore point.
I get lore by killing people, which is really easy for me. So I think it's question time.
Okay, go for it.
What does this mean?
Okay, well, obviously, this is an actual tattoo. It's not a branding. Animals don't tend to be tattooed. Humans tend to be tattooed.
What should I keep an eye out for as we walk into the dark back room with the meat hooks on the ceiling?
Considering the fact that you, as far as you're concerned, you effectively just walked into a small room with a priest who's either unaware that he's got like a bit of human meat, or he's not bothered. He's fine with that. So presumably he's worth keeping an eye on. And obviously the butcher would have been well aware of what it was. So again, he's definitely a potential danger.
And one more. Relating to the whole like butcher priest thing connection here, who's in control?
You can see that the butcher seemed to defer to the priest, so you would think that the priest is in control now.
So yeah, this is ordered meat.
Indeed, he's not just randomly pulled up and gone, "Here's some meat for you, father."
Yeah.
And the way that the priest just sort of accepted it and took it, this is probably not the first bit of meat he's had off this butcher.
Yeah, it was routine.
Yeah,
which is disturbing. But I'm reassured by the weight of my trusty pistol at my hip as we go back there to do whatever he wants us to do with the meat.
Indeed, between the two of you basically just put the meat on a shelf, and then you both leave this storeroom at the back of the church. You can see he's sort of like he's stretching his back out a little bit as though like the weight was a little bit much for him. And then he says, "Well, I must get back to my work, but there's some bread and some cheese, etc. in the storeroom. If any of you get hungry during the evening, obviously feel free. I think I've got some corned beef in there. Help yourselves. If you need anything, I'll just be in here. Please feel free to knock. It's been quite a trying day. I do sometimes nod off."
Yeah. I escort him to his quarters door and everything, clap him on the shoulder, thank him for everything he's doing for our sakes, and I want to use my last hold to ask you, John, what does he wish I do?
Okay. He seems to be quite pleased that you all seem to be wanting to stay in the church.
Bet he fucking is.
That's a positive thing, yeah.
He's not sort of like, "Oh, I need to get these guys out so I can like get on with my stuff." He's like, "Oh, great, we've got some people in the church," so he seems to be quite happy about that situation.
Okay, so I let him go.
He disappears into his quarters at the back of the church. The door shuts. You hear him sort of like talking under his breath, like he's going through the sermon that he's writing out for the next day. And after a few moments, you hear what sounds like a slight thump on the ground as though someone had dropped something, and you hear a.
It's fine to sleep.
Okay. I'm gonna go sit next to Griff.
Yep, I'll be.
If you're still there,
I'll be in a can of beans trying to calm down. Beans will help.
Okay. So, how are you feeling, Griff? What's up, boy?
I'm a bit shaky. This is not the usual kind of stuff you deal with when you're guiding people. Bug-eyed freeze people. The priest looks alright though, so hopefully we're safe here.
Yeah, he's a friendly man. Looking after his flock in his own way, I'm sure.
Well, I guess if you can be safe anywhere, it's in the house of God, isn't it? I guess that's what they say.
Yeah. So what about these maps? Why do you think these guys map out caves of all things? Like, it's not like this isn't a mining town. They're not looking for diamonds in there, so.
No, but if people wanted to try and find that gold and stuff, then I'm guessing it'd be a good thing for them to make, to pay, to sell. It's not a big tourist trap, this area, but I guess they get a couple of people. I don't know, yeah, it just seems a bit weird.
It's not a pirate treasure, so it's not, a grotto or whatever.
Well, to be fair, now I'm looking at the map and stuff, I'm sure I might have been here before. Can I use my law, John?
Yeah. What is it you want to know? What is it you want to know?
What can I ask? What is it?
I think you get a plus to your roll for like puzzle things out or something.
You may spend a point of law. So I roll reason about it. If it's a plus 10, I get what's ongoing. So I get a +1 ongoing.
You get +1 forever on that thing.
Yeah, as long as it concerns that subject. So if you make your roll versus the caves, any future rolls to do with the caves, you get +1 on.
Right, cool. So I'm doing this, and then I can do something like a puzzle to.
Yeah.
Right. So, oh bloody hell, got 11 on the roll. Jesus.
Ooh.
That's 13.
You actually made that map. Turns out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
Okay, so effectively you've got 3 questions you can ask me about the cave systems, and I will answer you honestly because this is stuff you know from the fact you've been here before.
Right. Cool. Okay. Well, I guess the first one would be like, is there anything significant resources in there to mine? Is there a reason to mine that?
Okay, there's no actual reasons to sort of like mine them. However, these rumours that this cache of Roman coins bought by the missionaries does persist. Although, as far as you're aware, no parties that you've ever led to the caves have actually found this cache of coins. But occasionally, some people will find one in the local stream or in a snowdrift, and the whole thing flares up again, and you get a brief surge of tourism as other people come in thinking, oh, there must be something in there, and they come to try and find these coins.
Yeah. Right, apparently the North Cave is the one that everyone goes to. That's the one where they think it is. Basically, what I'd like to know is if there was any like tunnels going off from this cave, where's the most likely part of the cave would they be?
Okay, you know that the north and the south cave connect extensively to a large cave system that runs for hundreds of miles below the town, whereas the western cave isn't connected to that main system. It's mostly a cave that's like maybe been used by like bears for like hibernation. It goes a little way like underground, then it stops. It's pretty much a dead end.
Sorry.
So the north one's the one with the north one's the one that's like kind of connected to the town and stuff.
Yeah, the north and the south one both connect to the same cave system, just at different points. You think the southern one will be easier to get to because it's just to the west of where your plane landed, whereas the northern one will be heavily snowed under and will be more difficult to get to.
Right, cool. So I've got one more left. So I can hold this one, can I, and ask a question later if I've got one? Yeah, I'll hold it then.
Okay, and at this point, I'm going to ask you to make me a roll plus luck, please. Griffstone.
9.
Okay, so you're eating these delicious cold beans from this can while you're like thinking about what you know about the area. However, these beans, they're not really like quenching your hunger at all. Like, in fact, as you're eating them, it's almost like you're getting more hungry.
What?
It's quite disconcerting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking in his direction, Jimmy, you'll see that he's practically like wolfing these like beans. Like,
I'll open up another one and start yamming that down. God damn, I'm starving. I don't know if it's because it's so cold or something, or because of the shock.
Okay, at this point, the two of your companions who'd gone back to Lizzie, your plane, you've collected all of your stuff, you've returned to the church, you open the door and you walk in just to see your guide, Griff, like, going, oh, I'm starving.
I'm starving. I don't know why.
Griff, Jimmy, we need to talk. Something terrible happened to the plane.
What?
So Marilyn and I got out there, and it looks like something has torn a hole in our petrol tank, and all of our gas is gone. And if that wasn't fucking scary enough. It looks like someone moved the body.
So someone sabotaged the plane and moved the body?
Someone doesn't want us to leave.
No.
Well, I mean, what have you guys sort of figured out on your side? And I'm just sort of putting our bags down and... Yeah.
Well, I've been looking at the map, and Jimmy has been helping the priest bring some meat in.
Yeah, about that. Everyone, come a little closer.
Huddle in.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah.
Unfortunately, Griff, you appear to have finished the can of beans you're eating.
Oh, I'm still hungry.
You're a ravenous.
Oh, I'll eat the third can of beans.
Yeah, he literally throws down this can of beans, and almost without even looking at where it's landed, he just picks up another one. And he's opens it up. He's like,
Griff, that's for all of us. Calm down.
I'm starving. I think it's a shock or something.
Now you say that, Freddy. The speed he's going through these, your food supplies ain't gonna last you that long if he's chomping it down at this rate.
I grab any remaining cans of beans that are around him and throw them in the bag. I'm cutting you off.
Oh, God damn it! I need with beans.
So while this is going on, what do you make of this, Marilyn?
Well, I was waiting for Jimmy to finish telling us about the meat.
Yeah. So, after we have dealt with the bean distribution model, yeah. So I gesture for us to huddle in, and I go, okay, so I need you guys not to make any loud noises after I finish talking, okay? Right. Good. I helped the meat to the back room, like he said, and well, there's no easy way to put it. It's people.
How do you know?
There's a tattoo on it. I think a sailor.
What?
Sailor's tattoo, like an anchor. I seen them in the army.
As he says this, Griff, you remember that the last group of people you actually took to the caves arrived by boat, and that there were quite a few sort of sailors and nautical types amongst them. You sort of waited around for a little bit for see if they needed your help afterwards for getting back or whatever, but you never really saw them again afterwards. You just assumed they got back on their boat and left when they'd not found anything, like a lot of people do.
Yeah, I'll let these guys know that. I don't remember that. Yeah, I had some guys. I can't remember them for it. Oh my God, that's just. Oh.
I don't want to cause anyone too much alarm, but I think our main priority needs to be getting the fuck out of here as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I don't really like the idea of being on anybody's menu.
No. We need to figure out.
I'm not sure if the priest is on it, in on it, or if he's just really dumb. But I mean, I can find out, and I tap my pistol on my belt.
The thing is, either way, either he's in on it and then we're in shit, or he's not in on it and then we're in shit.
Well, he can help us. He has some clout here, if he's not in on it.
The thing is, as a local priest with a community this tight, how much you're betting he's not in on it, or wouldn't know anything about it, or be leading it, or he's controlling it. It does seem.
Well, did anybody else notice that his sermon didn't mention Jesus or God at any point?
I did wonder, but yeah, I should have said the Lord, didn't they, or something like that? Did they say,
they did mention the Lord.
Yeah.
And now that you mention it, this statue has been bugging me ever since we got here, and I kind of point to the weird slender man Jesus.
Oh yeah, that is odd, isn't it? I didn't notice that.
And no one could tell me why it looked sort of unusual or out of the ordinary. They just all said, "Oh, it's always been like that."
Okay, cannibal church or not, we need to sleep. We need to get petrol. We need to fix up that hole in Lizzie's belly, and we need to get the fuck out of here.
Last part we can't do much about until the weather comes down. And
1 and 2 we can do.
Yeah, well, we have to take shifts sleeping.
We need to take shifts, and I'd suggest that we stay 2 on, 2 off. Because I don't think any one of us should be alone in this place.
No. Well, but what do we have in terms of weapons and ways to defend ourselves? And I sort of lift up my sort of overall jacket and show that I've got a little sidearm tucked into my belt.
I'll lift up the big duffel bag that I've brought off the plane and just lift out the handle of a rifle, load it, leaving the barrel inside the bag, and then tuck it back down. No need to get it out where the preacher can see it.
Yeah.
As long as we all have a way of defending ourselves.
I've got personal sidearm.
So I imagine this thing like unfolds as you're all sort of like getting various guns out, and then you've got Griff who's like got his knife and he's like.
No, it says on this gear thing I get to choose 2, 1 personal sidearm. I'm having a bloody gun.
It's fine, man, no problems.
I've got reason. I'm smart. I'm just not very emotional and shit.
Okay, so you guys seem to be suggesting some sort of like watch system where like 2 of you are going to stay up, 2 of you are going to sleep. Okay, so if you're going to split it into 2 watches, who are the first 2 people who are staying up?
I propose that I take the first watch.
Yeah.
With whoever wants to.
Right, well, I've had a bit of shock and stuff, so I think it'd be good for me to get some sleep.
And I'm kind of thinking the sooner I get some sleep so we can fly out, the better. So that leaves you 2 guys, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
Okay, so the first watch, which is Freddy and Jimmy, passes fairly uneventfully. The weather shows no sign of abating. You see the snow's piling up thickly outside the church. You can still hear if you go near to the priest's quarters, you can still hear the soft snoring from inside. You can also hear like a sort of a slight like buzzing noise, maybe like an occasional words, like someone's got like an old-fashioned like radio on or something.
Interesting. I sort of put my ear up to the door and listen if I can discern anything from that buzzing noise.
Okay, make me a roll plus reason.
All right. 10.
Okay, so you listen, and it actually, as you listen, it sounds like 2 very similar voices talking to each other, but they're strange sort of buzzing voices. They're this sort of like, it was as though if I was talking to you now in this sort of voice, I'd be talking to you like this with a very sort of buzzing voice like this. And the voices are quite low, almost in hushed tones. But you do make out a couple of words. You make out the words infection and containment.
I called Jimmy over and sort of quietly said, listen, put your ear up to the door here. They're talking about, I can hear them talking about some kind of infection, some kind of containment.
You hear a similar thing, Jimmy?
Them who?
I don't know, and I don't really want to find out, to be honest. This is just getting weirder by the minute, and it's definitely not. I'm here to fix the fucking plane. I'm not here to do any of this weird shit. Yeah. Very odd.
So, John, this was at the priest's quarters, or yeah, okay.
Can I, because I'm sort of quite mechanical and quite technical, can I figure out like what exactly kind of thing, what piece of equipment would be making this sound? Like, is it a CD radio? Or?
You don't have to make a roll for that, because as you say, you are a mechanic. This is your sort of bag. So as you're listening to it, it does sound like you're listening to, like say, like an old sort of CB radio. But if you are listening to an old radio, who are the 2 people talking on it, and why is the priest listening to like 2 people talking on a radio?
And one of the voices is definitely not the priest.
No, both of the voices, these strange sort of like buzzing, almost slightly mechanical sounding voices.
I turn to Jimmy and I say, we need to, I don't know about you, but I need to see what the hell that is. How do you feel about us sort of covertly taking a peek? He fell asleep straight away. He's a heavy sleeper. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, if you can... John, did the priest lock the door?
You didn't hear any sound of it locking, okay. He just shook it.
Well, I take out my pistol, I cock it, and I just nod towards the door. So I'm standing back, allowing you to open the door.
Okay. And I carefully, as gingerly as I can, reach over and slowly turn the handle and just push it open ever so slowly, so trying to make as little noise as possible.
Okay, as you push the door open from the room beyond, there is a loud... You hear what sounds like a strange sort of fluttering noise. Then there is a loud crash and the sound of breaking glass.
Jesus, I throw the door open.
Okay, you throw the door open into the priest's quarters, and you can see the window at the far end of the room has been smashed. The wind is howling in, snow's coming in. You can see what appears to be this strange radio set. It's almost as though someone has taken like a normal radio set and then just like glued various bits of like circuitry and like mechanical bits. It looks bizarre even to your eyes as a trained mechanic. And you can just see the priest sort of like sat back in his chair with his head down.
I immediately call out to just shout across the church to Griff and Marilyn and say, "Guys, get in here!" and sort of push my way in.
Okay, so Griff and Marilyn, what you hear is you're woken up abruptly by the sound of smashing glass, and then you hear your mechanic Freddy going, "Griff, Marilyn, get over here!" And you can see him like just stood outside the priest's
grabbing my gun out and fucking not messing about. Not messing about.
Yeah, grab the guns. Head towards the sound of his voice. Can we see where Jimmy is?
Yeah.
They're both at the front.
I don't know where Jimmy is because I just went
they're both stood like outside the police quarters with like the guns ready. Okay, now as Marilyn heads off towards the priest's quarters, obviously for a few moments, Griff, you're effectively left alone, and there's like a big pile of like these cans of beans like there, like just like unguarded, just like sat there, and like as you go to stand up, your stomach goes.
I'll grab a can to take with me. I'll grab two to take with me. I'll put one in my pocket. I'll open one up and start. I'll be basically well behind there.
See now, do you just grab a couple of cans and follow after them, or do you like think, oh, they've got this, and like devour a few more cans while you've got the chance?
Yeah, true. Actually, they've got this.
Okay, have yourself a law point, Dave.
Oh, fat.
As you just like fuck this, and you start eating the beans. Okay, so the two of you are over by the door. You hear footsteps running towards you. You see Marilyn run over, looking into the priest's quarters beyond. You can see that the window at the far end has been smashed open. Snow and wind is pouring in. There's what appears to be a radio on a small table, which has like circuitry and bizarre sort of bits of technology like glued to it effectively. And you see the priest just like sat in his chair like.
Okay.
I run over to the priest to check if he's sort of okay.
Approach him cautiously and prod him with the end of my rifle.
You're approaching cautiously, however, Freddy is running over, so he will get there first. Okay, Freddy, as you get over to the priest, you sort of like put your hand out to try and wake him up, and as you look at him, you realise that, or what you first took to be the priest, it's effectively he's almost two-dimensional. It's just like as though someone had skinned the priest and had just left the skin and the clothes sat in the chair. It's as though he's been hollowed out.
Jesus.
Can you please tick off a box on your sanity shot?
Certainly.
As you see this.
As soon as I touch him and realise this, I immediately turn and vomit.
And as he does so, as he touches him, this empty skin sack that was once a priest just slides bonelessly out of the chair like, onto the floor, and followed by the of Freddy like throwing up noisily.
Are there any doors in and out apart from the door by where?
No, there's just one door at the front. There's not even a door out of here. The only way out of here would be through the window, which is obviously now smashed.
Which side of the wall is the glass? Is it inside or outside?
The glass has fallen on the outside of the building.
Like something crawled out of him and left through the window.
That's certainly a valid assumption. You all
Where's
stand
Griff?
there. Okay, you turn back round to look to see where Griff is, and you can basically see him like with like empty bean cans around him. Like,
I'm sorry.
he's like over in the corner, like, don't look at me, don't
No,
look at me.
While I'm sort of busy vomiting, I just point behind me to the window, like, you know, it's just sort of to try and say, look out the fucking window.
Okay, so Jimmy, what are you doing while all this is going on?
Is there a piece of furniture large enough that we could block the window with it?
You could certainly use the chair that the priest was sat in. That's easily, it's like an armchair. It's easily big enough to block the window.
Yeah. So the skin sack slithered off the chair.
One thing you
Okay,
do notice with your sort of like, obviously as a mercenary, you're trained to like look at a situation and take in what's going on. As you move over to the chair, you notice that you'd expect if someone had just like yoinked someone's insides out, there'd be like blood and viscera everywhere.
Viscera, yeah.
But there's no sign of any of that on the chair. The chair is almost pristine.
Well, I'm gonna move the chair, but before I do, I'm gonna poke around a
Okay.
bit to see like what's there. And we're talking 10.
Okay, select one off the list then.
A clue, please, to what the fuck is going on.
Okay, as you're sort of like looking around, you're checking over the table, you go near this large sort of strange radio conglomeration that's on the table, and you hear a very faint buzzing sound coming from it. At first it just sounds like zzz, but as you listen to it, you hear a voice going, contains infection.
Is there like a headset or like something?
You see there's a microphone next to it on the table.
But no, like receiving.
There's no like earpiece. There's just like it's like
Yeah.
you don't even know where the sound is being broadcast from because it's got all this weird sort of like metal and circuitry stuck over it.
Okay, so I start lugging the chair to the window, and let me double check on the name. Okay, Freddy. As I do so, I look over my shoulder to Freddy, and I go, Freddy, when you're done with that, please take a look at the radio apparatus, or whatever that is. I think that's... I don't... Well, yeah.
Cool. So I sort of compose myself and I pull myself up by the edge of the chair and start and slowly sort of stumble over towards the radio and sort of take a look at it and try and figure out what's going on there.
Okay, you have a look at the radio, and despite your technological expertise, you're a little bit bewildered. Like, say, stuff just appears to have been fixed haphazardly to what is like a normal sort of like Bakelite radio set, or like say, like a CB sort of radio. As you're looking at it, though, you start to be able to pick out what some of these bits of other stuff, the recognisable ones anyway, there's some you just don't recognise at all, but you're certain that some of the bits that have been stuck on it looks as though they've been taken from like an old weather station of some kind and then just like attached haphazardly to this radio.
Guys, I've never seen anything sort of put together in this way before. Looking at it, do I think there's a way that I could maybe fix the buzzing and try and clear up the sound a little bit?
You're not sure about clearing up the sound, but you can see what appears to be the volume control on like the original radio set effectively. So you might be able to turn the volume up a little bit.
All right, so I turn the volume up.
Okay, so you turn the volume up, and you hear this buzzing much louder, and you can make out the word report. So you hear report.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I turn to the others and think I think someone has to say something, otherwise they're going to get impatient.
We're stuck out in the frozen wastes. We think we're under threat. We're lost in the storm. Mayday, mayday.
The voice goes,
However you
identify yourselves.
Captain Marilyn Abbott of the Marilyn Shaw of the Elizabeth something lengthy plain name at Bowling Green Airfield in Kentucky.
Okay, you hear what appear to be several voices on the other end talking to each other as though some sort of arguments taking place, but they're speaking in a strange sort of a language that none of you understand. And then the radio goes dead.
That's not a good sign. I head over to the window and stick my head out the window and just see if I can see any trace of where whatever jumped out the window might have gone.
Okay, you head over to the window. Whilst you're doing that, we're going to jump back momentarily to Griff the Beanmaster Stone in the other room. Griff, you've eaten like every can that's around you. There's just like empty cans and like debris around you. However, you are still like hungry as none of that has even touched the sides on its way down.
Oh my god.
However, there is no food in your immediate vicinity. You can just about hear the discussions that your fellows are having in the priest's quarters.
Yeah. Well, I vaguely remember something about in the pantry, the storeroom or something. So I'm going to head towards there.
Okay, no problems. You walk across towards the pantry. You open up the door. You see 3 shelves on the far wall. There's a few cans, and then there's this large haunch of beautifully appetizing looking meat sat on the shelf.
Sailor. Salty, at least, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the tins. Or it says some cheese there, so I'll have some cheese.
Okay, so we jump back to the priest's quarters. Whilst Freddy is heading over to the window, Marilyn and Jimmy, you hear what sounds like a crashing noise coming from next door from the store cupboard.
Okay. Rifle ahead of me. Go and investigate.
Okay. What are you doing, Jimmy?
What's Freddy doing right now?
Freddy's heading over to the window to like, look out of it, and you've
Okay,
seen.
I'm covering Freddy while Marilyn is going to check on the noise.
Okay, so Marilyn,
Griff, is that you?
You head next door with your rifle up. You say, "Griff, is that you?" And as you look into the storeroom, you can basically see Griff's just like grabbing these like cans off the shelf.
Griff, what's going on? You never overeat
I'm
like
angry.
this.
I just need to fill this.
But
There's
Griff,
hunger.
look how much you've had. What's going on?
It might be your imagination, Marilyn, but you could swear that Griff's like hair is a little greyer than when you last saw him.
But he is my good friend, and therefore I'm not just going to shoot him for clearly turning into some sort of cannibal,
Maybe
or possibly
I'm not.
being the host chrysalis for some sort of hideous people-eating monster.
I'm just eating fucking cans of shit. Don't kill me yet, Jesus.
No. Griff, you need to put the food down. We can't be split up like this. We need to stay together.
At this point, can you please make me a help roll? So that's a roll plus your trust towards Griff, just to see if basically you can like talk him around.
10.
Okay, so as Marilyn's talking to you, Griff, you are still like ravenously hungry, but you can sort of see the sense in what she's saying. You know, you've got to like pull it together and man up a little bit and like deal with this situation first, then get back to the beans afterwards.
Yeah, right, okay. I'll put some in my bag. Stay with me. But yeah, okay. I understand, Marilyn. Thanks for that. I needed that. But yeah, this hunger's still there, so I'm gonna have to deal with that later. But right, what are we doing? What's going on? Made a crash.
The priest's dead. It looks like someone skinned him, or maybe something crawled out of his skin.
Oh, good God. So yeah, either he's a monster or a monster killed him. That's what we don't find out.
Having deliveries of sailor meat. I'm pretty sure he's a monster.
As you say that, and you say the word meat, almost without him meaning to do it, Griff licks his lips.
Okay.
Don't say food, please.
It's alright, because like, while his hands are full of food, he's not holding onto his gun, he's just got it tucked in his pocket, and that's a good thing right now.
Right, let's go to. I'm going to go to the priest's place to see what's going on with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so while you two are heading to the priest quarters, Freddy, you are looking out of the window. You peer out of it. You don't see any footprints in the snow outside the window. You can still see some of the broken glass lying in the snow. However, as you look out, you briefly see what appears to be a shape of some sort. It's difficult to tell how big it is because it may be far away, and the snow coming down makes it very difficult. But it's in the air, getting smaller and smaller and fading away into the snow. You can just make out this faint.
I just scream at the top of my lungs in what I know in the back of my mind is a futile effort. Hey, come back here!
The shape disappears into the snow, and the buzzing is lost amidst the sound of the howling storm.
Did anyone, Jimmy? Did you see that?
See what?
It looked like something was. I know this sounds crazy. Something was flying away from here. I don't know how else to describe it. We do need to leave. Yeah, this weather is not looking like it's letting up anytime soon. So we may just need to figure
we
out.
need to find the people on the other end of that radio apparatus over there, and we need to do it right now. So let's get our kit bags, grab our friends, or your friends, anyway, and.
As you're saying that, the door opens and you see Griff and Marilyn walk into the room. You notice, like, Griff looks quite sort of haggard, almost like emaciated, as like, you'd seen someone who's like a famine victim or something similar, and his hair's gone a sort of light greyish colour.
Griff, are you okay, buddy? You don't look so good.
I'm not, but let's just move on for now.
To be honest, Griff, aside from like starving, you feel great.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, let's deal with the immediate issues first. If I'm ill or something, when we get back, I can get medically checked out.
Fair enough. Yeah. So Jimmy and I were just chatting, and we've kind of come to an agreement that we think we all need to actually just get the hell out of here now. Grab our bags and go.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
definitely.
what do you need to fix Lizzie?
Just
the tools on the plane or anything else?
Just the tools on the plane. Give me half an hour, 45 minutes, and I can do it. But we need something to fuel her up with.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So
there was a tractor on the way in here by that rude farmer.
Oh, I was thinking that, yeah.
Right.
Good sight for some.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think we should do?
I think we need teams of 2.
Right.
You need to go back to the plane and get it fixed. The other 2 need to go and get that petrol.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I'm happy.
We'll
the sooner
all
we get
go
started,
back
the
to the
better.
plane and pick up the petrol cans.
I was going to say we do need petrol. Yeah, some told the petrol.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's going back to the plane to get the cans?
We'll all go back to the plane and then we'll...
Yeah.
But yeah, who is staying and babysitting the engineer, and which other 2 are going?
Well,
you go.
I was going to say, I think the mercenary should go with you. If you're going to get the petrol, and I should stay with the pilot.
I'm going to just say that I think Marilyn should stay with me, and I know it sounds terrible, but if anything happens to her out there, we're really in trouble, because she's the only one who can fly the plane.
This is that whole conversation we were having before we started the game about keeping the pilot alive. Yeah.
Me and Jimmy.
There's none of you's flying this plane out of here.
No.
Not in this weather.
Yeah, we'll leave the pilot and mechanic at the plane, which is sensible, and the two...
Me and Griff will be trekking out of here before we fly.
Okay, so...
We'll just keep walking, mate. We'll just keep walking up the mountain and go.
Okay, so to speed through this, you all head back to the plane.
Yeah.
Freddy and Marilyn, you stay with the plane, whilst Griff and Jimmy, you grab some like spare petrol canisters and you head back to this covered over tractor that you passed on the way into this small farming community. You see the snow is piled up around it. There's still this like dark green tarpaulin thrown over it.
Right, we'll pull back the tarpaulin over where the petrol area is, canister is. And do the whole putting the pipe in, sucking it, and then pulling it in.
And I stand guard with my guns.
Have to do a reason or anything, or can I just do it?
No, that's fine. You don't have to make a roll to pour petrol into a can. That's fine. Okay. However, I am going to ask for a reason roll from our mercenary.
Oh.
Or you can use luck if you wish.
I just want to ask, is this me getting surprised?
Yeah.
Because I can't. So.
Okay, that's grand. In which case, no problems. As your friend Griff is like sucking the petrol up a hose and putting it into these canisters, in between coughing and spluttering, you spot what appears to be a figure moving towards you from further out in the storm, from further in this farming community. However, as it's running, you can see with your sort of keen mercenary eye that it appears to be sort of running low to the ground, almost like an animal would move rather than a human being.
Okay, so how far away is it?
We're talking about sort of 50 yards at the minute, but it's moving towards you quickly and it's circling round almost like a predator circling its prey.
Right. 50 yards. Okay, well, what's going to happen is I'm going to get my rifle and just do a quick cross and just open fire.
Okay, so since you're resorting to violence, make a roll plus might.
That would be 9.
Okay, so choose 2 from the list of options.
I suffer a little harm and I inflict terrible harm.
Okay, not a problem.
So, just for reference, in case it means anything, that's 2 harm from the rifle, 1 harm from inflicting terrible harm, and then I have number 1 with a bullet, which gives me 2 more harm, which is 5 harm, which is catastrophic for a human being.
Okay.
Wow.
So what happens is this: the snow appears to, and the mist appears to part briefly, and you see this bipedal figure rushing towards you. It looks as though it must have once been a burly human, but as it runs towards you, you can see that it appears to have no eyes, just like 2 black holes where its eyes were. Its hair is entirely white. It has long, sharpened talons and sharp fang-like teeth. It lunges towards you, scratching you with its claws, causing you 1 harm. As it does so, though, you pretty much just like stick your gun in its face, and a huge hole is blown in the neck of this creature. It falls backwards onto the snow, dead before it even hit the ground. It twitches for a few moments and lies still.
I'll flip around, startles, and then petrol off. Fucking hell.
Yeah, and I yell to Griff, just hurry up, will you? And I reload my rifle while I'm like stamping on the face of this man.
Yeah, I'll make liquid go faster, Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay, so the two of you back to the aeroplane. You're obviously getting on the repairs, doing your checks, making sure everything's good. When you hear a
Jesus, boss, that doesn't sound good.
Fix the plane. I will keep you alive until it's time to take off.
Don't have to tell me twice.
You make sure we stay alive after.
Deal.
nice. Okay, so back over at the tractor. This thing is dead. You've just about got all the petrol you're going to get out of it, Griff. To be honest, it's probably not going to get you all the way back home in the plane, but at least it'll get you the hell out of here.
Yeah, even like 50, 100 miles or that, I don't care. Just away from here.
And settle for 5.
Yeah, just miles.
We're probably talking
miles.
about 10 to 15 if you're lucky and you push it.
That's cool. That's enough away. Cool. I'll turn to Jimmy and go. Right, I've got it. I'll pass him one of the canisters.
Yeah, and then we just double time it back.
Right.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. As the two of you start running back towards the plane, you hear from either side of you in this snow what sound like animalistic howls that are being sort of answered from either side, almost like a pack of wolves communicating with each other. Those of you back at the plane, you can also hear this, although it's a little bit further away from you. And as you're sort of looking around, the two of you are running back towards the plane, you see shapes starting to like emerge from between the buildings of this farming community.
Right. I'll have my pistol out. I'll be trying to look as I'm running, just, you know what I mean, just in case anything comes too close.
Okay. Can you please make me a roll plus affinity, Griff?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Yep. Oh, that's not good. That's a 4.
Okay. Whilst everyone else hears these horrible, bestial, howling sounds, these cries, these hunting cries from either side of you, to you they have almost a sort of beckoning quality. They feel comfortable and familiar to you, as though these sounds are like calling you towards them.
Nice. That's a good roll to fail on. Cool. I'll find myself kind of like drifting, kind of off that way. Then, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get back.
Okay.
Subconsciously.
So as you're running, Jimmy, you notice that although he's sort of still like roughly heading back towards the plane, that your friend, well, your colleague Griff, has sort of started drifting like towards where these sounds are coming from. He's just a little bit ahead of you.
And Griff is keeping up.
Griff is actually, bizarrely enough, he's a little bit ahead of you. He's moving quite quickly. He doesn't seem as bothered by the thick snow as you are. You're finding it quite difficult going. But you can see he's slowly drifting off towards these sort of animalistic cries.
I yell after him, Griff, it's this way.
Okay, at this point, can you please make me an assist roll, a help roll, so it's a roll plus trust?
Which is +1 because I'm a good guy. I trust everyone.
Help me, Jimmy.
Come on, Griff, you can do it.
Come on, Jimmy, you can help me.
That's 8.
Okay, so you're being drawn towards these sounds, Griff, when you hear the voice of Jimmy shouting from behind. Jimmy, you get up level with him, you put your hand on his shoulder, and he turns round as though he's sort of waking from some sort of trance, and as he does, you can see his hair is entirely white.
I'm like, oh, what's going on, Jimmy?
Griff. Jesus. Okay. This way, you're going the wrong way, and I try to like grab him and like.
That's not a problem.
Reorient.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, sorry, I must have got a bit sidetracked there with the snow drifts.
Okay, however, the extra time it took you to pull him back, you see another one of these figures running towards the two of you out of the snow, breaking from the pack. Again, running low, sort of dropping to all fours and running towards you across the snow, seemingly not bothered by it at all. You hear this low panting coming from it as it bursts out of the snow towards you. What do you do, Jimmy? Griff?
Start shooting with a pistol.
Yeah, shooting with my pistol as well.
Okay, both of you make a resort to violence roll, so that's a roll plus might.
Also, one of my moves says whenever you are engaged in a firefight, you go first.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not sure if this is technically a firefight.
Yeah, you can go first. Go for it.
We're firing together, aren't we, against
By which I mean, technically, I guess the last guy wouldn't have got to me, but whatever, we did that already. So
Yeah, that's fine.
that's abysmal. That's 5. So,
Okay, so it's down to your roll.
I got 10
Griff.
on my roll.
10. Okay,
good going.
so with your 10, you can choose 3 of the options on resort to violence.
Okay. So, right. So you inflict terrible harm. That's one of them, is it?
Yep.
Can I not pick the same one twice or something? Why was it?
No.
So why would I take you suffer little harm? Why would I take that?
Because if you don't take that, you'll suffer more harm.
It's
Basically, this thing is going to injure you in some way.
I see.
But if you
Yeah,
take
yeah,
that, you've only got like a little scratch, like Jimmy did.
Cool. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay.
So 2 is it?
So little harm, terrible harm. What was your roll?
10. Oh yeah, I got.
So you've got another one.
I'm going to use frighten your enemy.
Okay. How much harm does your weapon do? It should say on.
It's 2 if it's just a normal pistol.
Yeah, it's just a pistol, so yeah, it'd be 2.
And then plus
medium.
1 from the
Okay,
normal harm.
not a problem. So at this point, Jimmy, you are going to take 2 harm.
Yep.
Griff, you are going to take 1 harm as this human figure, but with these sharp teeth, these talons, and this shocking white hair that seems to have spread over most of its body, dives out of the snow towards you. It slices you viciously across the chest, Jimmy, with its talons, cutting through your clothes. It almost backhands you a little bit, although you notice that it almost wasn't really trying to harm you that much. Griff, it just sort of backhanded you as an afterthought, scratches you a little bit. Describe how you shoot that mofo.
Cool. Right. Well, I'll also say I've got outdoorsy, which takes 1 reduction from the harm, so technically take none.
In which case, what I'll say is, as it's backhands you almost as an afterthought, it actually just scratches your clothes as you pull back and not pull your gun up. You fire the gun.
Yeah, basically I'll fire it into its back and then into its head as it kind of goes past me.
You fire it into its back and its head. You see this, what appears to be blood, although it's like a very, very dark, almost black colour, sprays out of it. It lets out this howl of rage and pain, which is echoed by the figures still lurking in the mist, and then it runs away from you, disappearing back into the snowdrifts. The 2 of you can now see the plane just up ahead of you. You're both leaning on each other a bit. Jimmy's looking a little bit the worse for wear. Your clothing's a little bit torn up, Griff. The 2 of you on the plane, you see these 2 come running out of the snow. Like I say, Jimmy's looking a little bit the worse for wear.
Yeah, I'll be helping Jimmy. Does he help me?
Griff's got one of his arms over his shoulders and he's like helping him along.
Freddy, how long?
I'm done.
Great. Get the chocks up.
We need to get the petrol in. I'll pass it to Freddy. I guess Freddy knows how to...
In fact, yeah, Freddy, petrol in. Jimmy.
I rip the chucks out, start pouring the petrol in, and I say, throw anything off the plane that we can. We gotta get the weight down.
Okay, so just to check,
there's not that much on there, though, is there? Because we took
really.
all our survival gear off. We can just dump that on the landing pad.
Just take that off and throw it.
Okay, so just to check this, as you're pulling the chocks out, Freddy, and everyone else is climbing on the plane, who is actually outside the plane? Is it just Freddy, or is everyone else staying outside?
I'll be jumping up into the cockpit.
I guess I'm
going to be outside.
Yeah,
with my guns for keeping watch.
I will.
I'm trying not to die.
Yeah, I will start taking backpacks off and throwing them out, and I'll just go into the plane. If there is anything, just like random bits and pieces, I'll start throwing it out.
Okay, at this point, can you make me a roll plus reason, Griff?
Yep. 9, 10, 11.
Okay, you're still feeling this sort of like urge to go towards this sound. However, whether it's the sight of Jimmy's blood or the panic in Freddy's voice as he whips the chocks out, you're not sure, but you're able to steel yourself. You can almost feel as though like a force is like wants to pull you towards these voices, but you're able to resist it and like stay where you are.
As you group's guide, God damn it!
As you're also the chocks are pulled out and you're getting Freddy on board and you guys are stood there with the guns covering him, you can see this, for want of a better term, this pack of figures moving towards the plane. They drop into a run and they begin loping towards the plane at high speed.
Okay, start taxiing into position to take off.
I will lean out with basically where Jimmy is and then start kind of like firing at the pack to kind of hopefully take some out before they get to us.
Is Jimmy not on board?
Oh, he's at the end. He's doing the whole...
Jimmy, catch the plane, quick!
I'm assuming that you're just getting ready to go. Basically, Jimmy's outside covering Freddy with a gun.
Yeah, he'll like step on it. Obviously, he's not going to like go. Oh, it's 50 foot away.
Oh
from
right,
there.
I thought everyone had got in. Shit.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask is I'm going to ask both Jimmy and Freddy to please make me a luck roll to basically see if you manage to get inside before these things get to you.
11.
Yeah, you're on board, no problems.
6.
Okay.
Can I help Jimmy? Because
you can make me an assist roll. That's fine.
Yeah, because you are like in the doorway of the plane.
So roll plus trust.
And I've actually got trust 2 in Jimmy, so that's good. I like Jimmy. Oh, and I actually got a good roll. I got 11.
Okay. So what happens is this: is basically Freddy, you jump straight on board, no problems. You slide into, look into the cockpit where you can see that the pilot, Marilyn, is frantically getting everything ready and is basically just like waiting to go. As you look around, you see Jimmy just getting ready to get on board, and you see some of these creatures leaping towards him, their talons extended. One of them scrapes down his back, causing him 1 harm, and then Griff heroically grabs him under the arms and heaves him backwards onto the plane, so falling backwards with him onto the plane.
Moving.
However, as the plane starts moving, you see one of these things lands in the doorway, holding onto it. The plane starts moving, but this thing is clutching on, leaving the others behind, but there's still one of these things in the doorway of the plane, so pulling itself
Kick
in.
that fucker off and close the door!
Can I try and pull my knife out and throw it at his face? That'll be mine.
You certainly can. Make me a resort to violence roll.
Oh yeah, I got 9 on the roll. 9. That's 12.
Okay, pick 3 from the list.
Okay, so I will have the inflict terrible damage. Okay, I'll do the suffer less harm, and I'll do impress on it. I'll impress it with my amazing. As I shoot it in the face, as I throw up the dagger into its face.
Okay, you hurl your dagger, it sticks in its neck, it lashes out at you, causing you 1 harm, and then it falls almost in slow motion backwards out towards the door. As it goes, however, it's going to make a last attempt to grab hold of you, Griff, as it falls and pull you with it. So I'm going to ask, can you please make me a might roll to see whether you can push this thing off you?
9. Looking at my might's good.
Okay, this thing grabs hold of you and you're pulled to the doorway, but you're holding onto it. The rest of you in the back, you can basically see your friends holding onto the doorway, and this thing's holding onto him by 1 arm as the plane's starting to take off. You see the weight of it's almost pulling Griff out of the door as he's trying to frantically hold on, and this thing's flailing down below the plane.
I grab Griff. I grab him by his jacket and pull him back as I try and slide the door shut and sort of cut this thing off.
Okay, make me a help roll, so it's your roll 2d6 plus your trust towards Griff.
Alright, so that's 1. 7.
Okay, so... Okay, so you've successfully helped him. However, you've exposed yourself to trouble. So what happens is you throw this thing off Griff, who like falls backwards into the plane. He's safe, but as you're sort of like throwing this thing off, it's now grabbed hold of your arm and it's pulling you towards the door, Griff.
Jimmy, Freddy, you mean?
Sorry, I apologise,
right?
Freddy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy, you can see Freddy like now being like pulled towards the door as this thing's grabbed onto his arm.
Yeah, and I'm probably laying down on the floor of the plane because I'm tore up, and so I bring out my pistol, and with a shaky hand, from all the pain, I'm gonna take aim and try to do a fucking prize fighter shot.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Don't hit Freddy. Don't hit Freddy. Yeah.
8.
8.
Okay, so you can choose 2 off the list.
Let's see. Take definite hold of it, meaning that I want Freddy to stay inside.
Yeah.
And terrible harm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm using one of my lore points, which is +2 damage. So I'm like 7 to 8 damage, which is enough to kill it like 4 times over.
Okay. As you're being pulled towards the door, Freddy, there is this ear-splitting explosion of this gun being fired inside the plane, and you're suddenly free of the weight of this thing. You look out of the door, and you see this thing with like the end of its arm missing, just like tumbling backwards in slow motion until it disappears into the mist and the snow. You look down, and you can see the end of its arm still clutching on to your coat. With just like that, just that bit of it missing where it's been blown off by that amazing shot from Jimmy.
At least we got a sample.
I just slammed that door so hard.
Okay, as the plane takes off and it begins heading away from this blighted farming town, you're the last one who looks out of the door and sees the farming community, Freddy. And as you look, you see the large storm cloud that's sort of gathered over the town. For a few moments just before it's engulfed by the mist, you gain a vague impression of something metallic inside the cloud. Then there is this huge flash of light descending down towards where this farming community is, and this huge explosion flares up, basically throwing your plane into the air like a ragdoll as you expertly pilot it away. Make your roll.
Okay. Can I use 2 moves at the same time?
Yeah, we're near the end of the game, so why not?
Cool. That gives me +4, which is good. That's 11.
Okay, the shockwave from this explosion hits the back of your plane, throwing it around. All of you in the back tumble over each other into the back of the plane. The door is slammed shut by Freddy, and then you are free of the storm. Managed to wrestle the plane and keep it under control, Marilyn, and after a few moments of sort of holding your breath, you see blue skies ahead of you. The snowstorm has been left behind, and as you look back, the snowstorm already clearing, you can see that all that remains of the farming community is a huge smouldering crater in the ground. Then you soar up into the clouds, leaving it far, far behind. And that is the end of the session, guys. Thank
Very
you.
Cthulhu, my love.
We made it.
Thank you very much for playing. I hope you all enjoyed it, despite the many and various technical problems.
We got through it.
Yeah,
Too bad.
And that was Tremulus, which is a Call of Cthulhu Powered by the Apocalypse game. Thank you to my players, Hannah, Dave, Gareth, and Johannes for playing. I'm, as always, quite happy to stay online and chat for a bit afterwards. But for now, I'm going to end the recording.